And we're live.
Yay.
Yay. And then there's actually, is there an eyeball in the corner of your screen?
Yeah, I see that now.
Okay, cool. So you can check the eyeball and you can see if people are chatting with us.
Okay, excellent.
Or they're listening or watching. So Carly, Supernatural Lingerie, thanks for chatting with me.
Of course.
CV Henriette of Art of the Zodiac, and I've recently been writing horoscopes for your website.
Yes.
I want to jump into the astrology, but before I do, this is a fun time to ask you, since we're being recorded. You've been studying astrology for a bit too, right? So I'm curious to know what this collaboration means to you.
Yeah, I mean, I just love thinking about astrology as a tool for kind of structuring life and days and things like that. So it's really fun to be able to tie that into dressing and self-care and all the things that kind of are tangential to the lingerie shop.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just feel so grateful to be able to chat with you about the astrological weather and what things are going on, and just have this touch point for that stuff. That's great.
I equally enjoy it. So we are, speaking of astrological weather, we are in Aries season. We just had this full moon, which something to think about. I was thinking about this morning, and I don't know if your brain ever goes here, but we talk about I feel the sun sort of steals the season, right? It's Aries season, but I love that every time, a full moon is the moon in opposition to the sun. So really thinking about this, the full moon that comes within the solar season, right? Being this, a sobering moment, right? Because it's stealing, it's kind of something thinking about the future or the past, depending on where it falls, right? In this case, we've just started the cycle again, and then Libra season is further on, but it's sort of, to me, specifically thinking about the Libra full moon having this almost sobering effect. Thinking of Libra is all about the descent into darkness and this, right, preparing for winter. And here we are at the beginning of spring, running towards things. And suddenly there's just this full, kind of aggressive moon, right? Because it's an opposition, kind of reminding us maybe in some ways to slow down.
Well, I mean, it's funny that you say that, because for me, the key words that always stick in my mind about Libra, which is maybe too simplistic, but I always think of beauty and balance.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, also the way you wrote about Aries season in the blog, about it being kind of a bit of a chaotic birth, and destructive, but also regenerative. And so the contrast of beauty and balance with the sort of frenetic energy of Aries is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of it's interesting, doing this new thing in the blog, where taking, going season by season, not just sort of writing through the signs, but really thinking about what each means. And yeah, it's interesting to think of Aries is I think it's, there's all these pop culture cliches, selfish, aggressive, totally true, but it's this right, it's this birth moment where you really can't focus on anything else, the seed breaking through the soil, right? That's we're just all pushing through, and we don't quite know, there's no time for a plan. There's just get there. And then it's almost interesting that this full moon is, yeah, you're right, imparting a little bit of that beauty and balance of further down the road being okay, but right, before we go too wild, let's kind of think about where this is ultimately going to end up, and this is ultimately going to end up at the scales being judged. What we're pushing through now is ultimately going to be what gets us through winter.
Yeah, for sure.
What did by the way, I don't know why, am I freezing at all? Because I feel you're freezing a little bit here and there.
No, you are looking very clear, but I can see myself kind of looking a little fuzzy, so I'm not sure what.
I'm wondering what. I'm wondering. I feel there's some super hi-fi internet that no one has.
I mean, I don't know.
At any rate, yeah. I love that you pointed that out. May I ask what else, like, when you're thinking about the blog this month, right? Like, what's the first thing that came to your mind? Did you resonate with your sign? We could start there.
Yeah, and I usually do. You know, it's funny because I just like really see myself as very Virgo.
Yeah.
I have a lot of Virgo and Capricorn and stuff in my chart. So, but I feel, you know, Virgo, I think like is considered like a planner and like meticulous and whatever, but also like can be so indecisive. So like, I just love the way you wrote that sign because you're like, now would be a great time for investing, or maybe not because of Mercury and Pisces. I'm like, exactly. That is exactly how my mind goes. Like, maybe yes, maybe no, maybe tomorrow, maybe yesterday. Like, anyway, yeah, so that like definitely stood out to me for sure.
You know, I have to, and kind of, you know, it's fun, like writing these, right? I mean, they're very basic, and I think they're used as like little. I feel like, if anything, these are sort of inspiration points to thinking about, you know, your larger chart, because everyone's, you know, has their sort of complicated makeup, right? That it's always interacting with the sky. But that being said, when it comes to Aries season, right? Like, I feel like I'm specifically biased because I am an Aries. So I feel like when spring comes, it's just, for me, like, I really feel this rebirth perhaps more than, I don't know, like, very significantly. So it's interesting, like, being a Virgo, if just as a very general question, and because I'm curious what others have to say about this as well, like, what is your experience? Do you feel that as much, or is it a little too chaotic for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really bad about like recording and reflecting on like past years and stuff, but this year for sure, like Pisces season really had me like dragging. And I have definitely been feeling like a lot more energized in the last like week or so. Yeah, I don't mind Aries season.
Yeah.
Feels more productive, which is good, because like when I feel like I can't accomplish, like check things off the list, it's really stressful.
I know that was the whole joke. I'm like, oh, as a Virgo, like, having Mercury and Pisces must be so overwhelming.
Yeah.
I live there, so.
It's so funny.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit more about, so, okay, Aries season, but then we had this just sort of really sort of, I want to say, active full moon last night, and you were starting to tell me about it. So you had big plans.
Yeah, I had big plans for like a bath and a whole thing, and then I saw that QAnon documentary was on, and so I did that instead.
That's an interesting, like,
so much for balance.
Yeah. I kind of like, I'm like, ooh, like, it's interesting to think about, like, the full moon sort of coming. I mean, that's sort of like on a mundane level. I feel like that's been like a culmination of like a lot of, like, that's an interesting, I'm just trying to meditate on like that documentary specifically, like thinking about like sort of that is like this sort of breakthrough moment and thinking, but it also just wondering, like, not to go there, but just sort of like thinking of things sort of setting at the full moon, setting a sort of like path, if you will, right? Like wondering how that story is going to play out.
Yeah. I don't know. I wish I had spent the time on the bath so that the next month of my life was in a more relaxed state, but oops.
I went to a sound bath last night, like a different kind of bath. My friend Safari does them. They're amazing. But I actually like fell asleep during the sound bath.
Oh,
so
seems normal, right?
Yeah, I usually like just kind of like fall in and out, but I just like knocked out and woke up like at the end. It was almost jarring. Have you ever done that? Like, I don't know, it's like when you fall asleep for a nap or something and you wake up a little panicked, like thinking you slept through something.
Yeah, that's funny that you say that. I'm like, really, I always fall asleep when I try to meditate, and I don't like to nap because I just never feel rested, and maybe that's why, like, waking up and being confused.
Like, yeah. So yeah, like the sound bath, like it was nice to spend it with all those people, but there was this moment of like, um, of like feeling really jarring, but then thinking like, oh, I wonder, like, with sound baths, I'm like, I think that was working on an unconscious level. Like, I was just, which I'm sure it was. I think that's how they work because listening, it's just the vibrations. But let's see. Should we pull up the screen?
Sure.
Let's do that so we can talk about the signs. Oh, while we do that though, anything new happening in the shop? And for people who have no idea like what supernatural is, we're here just kind of vaguely talking about the astrology of Aries. Maybe that's a good way to introduce that part of your life.
Sure, yeah. So I have a little lingerie boutique in Birmingham, in Michigan, and it's all like independent designers from all over the world that emphasize, exceptional original design and ethical production. And lately, the big news in the shop is that I have just tons and tons of beautiful, bright colors happening when usually it's a lot of black in here. Yeah, so that's been fun.
Let's see.
And there's the blog.
There it is. What's your favorite designer in the store right now?
That is a tough question. I mean, I'm like always a fangirl for La Fido, which is a Belgian brand.
Okay.
And their stuff is very cool. Let me see if it's not too disruptive to like just walk around for a quick second.
Please do my screen for a minute.
Okay. So they are kind of known for this like mono wire style, and like super sheer, beautiful like lines.
Yeah.
And then I mean, I don't know, it's a bit of a variety. Like that is like super minimal. And then there's also like Studio Pia that does these insane embroideries, which is really fun for spring. It has like little bees and flowers on it.
Okay, so can we hold that for a moment?
Yeah.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
I want to wear it as a like I want to incorporate it into an outfit.
Totally. Yeah. And that's definitely like on trend right now, like visible lingerie, and wearing like some of these more like elaborate styles, like something like that, like even over a shirt or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like becoming very popular, which is fun.
I love this spring. And what anything else colorful you have in? I'm sorry. I'm loving this.
No, that's okay. I'm just trying to figure out how to not make people too nauseous by walking around. The scowl is super fun. It's like electric blue lace, which you could totally wear with like a little blazer or something. And of course there's this suspender and bottom that matches. And then I have this like lilac, geez, I'm sorry, this is not the best. Lilac mesh and like a white and black lace little like bralette set, which is super cute. Super comfy and light and just like feels beautiful.
How did you I know we'll go into the horse because I'm so fascinated, but like I know, like, how did you remember, like, how you, because you were working advertising before you did this, but I know this has always been a love of yours, but like, maybe like, what are the, what first inspired you to like, what made you fall in love with lingerie?
I mean, I just think it's such an affirming and transformational thing to do for yourself. You can be, like individually expressive in a way that you can't with like your outer clothes in a lot of ways. And I mean, part of the inspiration for opening the shop is that I feel like a lot of times we have in our head that lingerie is like a costume for sex, that it's like for someone else. Like you don't wear beautiful lace like under your blouse work. You only wear it like on a hot date or something, And so therefore, like, I think a lot of what people think of as lingerie is either like, you know, like costumey, like French maid situation, or like granny, whatever, you know, and like there's just so much in between with, especially with these smaller brands. And once I started like discovering those like for myself, I was like, I gotta bring it to everyone.
I love it. And how old, because I mean, you know, the act of like making lingerie, I feel like this has been like, this is a craft, right? So do you work with some older companies, or maybe what are some of the oldest companies that you work with?
That's a great question. Probably the oldest one would be La Fido. I think they've been around almost 18 years now, I think.
Okay.
Which, I mean, I guess in the grand scheme, it's not that long, but for like this, you know, I mean, it's like a 5-person operation. It's pretty small. And they do everything. Well, anyway, I won't get on too much of a tangent, but yeah. And then the next would probably be Bordel, which I think has been about like just over 10 years, I think.
Yeah.
I'd be wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're all fairly young. Yeah.
I think this is a very appropriate conversation to have, right? Like Aries season, like this thinking of like coming out, right? Like this is the beginning of the zodiacal new year. So we are starting fresh. And so like this idea of like spring cleaning out your closet, but also like, right, like thinking about like, I don't know, it's like we're coming naked into the world again. And so thinking like when we're cleaning our closets, like what are we putting on? And like literally like, I feel like it's a lovely way to sort of appreciate our bodies.
For sure. Absolutely.
Literally in this season of coming out and coming forward.
Yeah, I love that.
Which, you know, I love Aries season. You know, it's the new, it's the start.
Yeah.
Anything else? Let's see. Okay, here we go. We're going to share the screen now. We're going to go through the signs.
Okay, wonderful.
Application window, Chrome tab. Here we go. Okay. So essentially, is this too obnoxious having the whole thing on screen? It's just easier, or I can just like look back and forth.
No, whatever.
Does it help? I'm like, is it helpful or is it not helpful? I can't tell.
And
if anyone's watching it, you can tell me if it's helpful or not helpful, huh?
Oh, I was just going to say it might be helpful so people don't have to like pop away to look at it.
Okay, cool. So maybe, so every month we're writing a horoscope for, I'm writing a horoscope for Supernatural Lingerie. Mm-hmm. So this is the Aries one. There will be 11 more this year. And so essentially, we'll just go right now. Maybe I'll just name a piece of advice for each sign. There is a link in the caption here. So if people want to read the whole thing, they can flip through and read it and hang out and give feedback. And feel free to pop in a little conversation around each of these. Does that sound good?
Suits me.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to pop over here. Okay, so for Aries season, this was my little fact, I should say. So for Aries season, loosely, if you are in Detroit specifically, I'm going to suggest maybe you do a dance meditation technique session. Have you done this before, Carly? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay. This is my Aries piece of wisdom. So a friend of mine, Michael Patrick Peters, runs dance meditation technique. And essentially it's like a 2-hour like workshop that happens weekly.
Okay.
Where you go and you like, it's a little bit of yoga, a little bit of dance, a lot of just sort of like movement. And there is like making sound. It's like based on this idea that like when your body starts to move, you like automatically dance. And this idea of like dance is release and movement, but also like there's this vocal component, right? Of like, just making sounds. It's kind of like a static dance, but you're like I would say making sounds because really you're just like whatever comes to mind. But it's very cathartic. And I was thinking with, if your Aries rising, there's some movement in the third house. This is a good time for communication, but also it's a very I feel like if you're an Aries, this might be a good month to really find your voice and also maybe find an outlet for your excessive energy.
I love that.
Let's see, Taurus. Ooh, let's see right here. I feel for Taurus, I think this is, actually, I'm just going to read what I wrote for Taurus. Is that okay?
Yeah.
With you, Carly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Things are heating up for you, Taurus, which can be a bit more for a sign that enjoys temperate weather. Metaphorically speaking, what's good for us, however, is not always pleasurable. Yours is a sign that could most benefit from a deep spring cleaning and maybe a look into your finances. Get your house in order now so you can indulge in all the earthly delights next season.
I love that. I don't know. Just tell me if you want to just keep going through these, but just as a little aside, I was listening to each week I listen to Jessica Lanato's astrology podcast, and she was talking about transits and aspects, and that sometimes benefic movement is not always good. And anyway, so I was just thinking about that with this one, because just because something's easy doesn't mean it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good jumping point in conversation. We don't have to go through all these, but I think that was a good sort of spark so people can read the rest. But thinking about that, and maybe the larger, we could talk about briefly the larger sort of weather right this month. So there's a lot of let me answer your question directly where I'm going here, right? Yeah. So we've had I'll talk about the benefics, right? Because I had two examples that came to mind. Aries right now is, Venus, the greater benefic. No, the lesser benefic. One's the greater, one's the lesser. I think Venus is, it doesn't matter. Venus, benefic.
Yeah.
Okay. A planet that generally brings us good things has been in Aries. And Venus and Aries can be a little volatile, right? Because Aries, Venus wants to bring things together. Aries is the home of Mars, the god of war. So there can be a little bit of tension, or when Venus is moving through Aries, maybe more, you might be fighting with your partner and things like this, right? There might be this need to start, just in general, start relationships that end just as quickly as they start. And so, so just because Venus is a prominent planet in play doesn't always mean that it's going to be the most comfortable thing.
Yeah.
And this month's is interesting because Venus has been, I haven't looked at the transit today, I think. Venus had been, up until yesterday at least, traveling with the sun. So Venus was Cazimi. So it's this sort of auspicious moment with this full moon of Venus also being invisible, right? So there's this something, we could say some sort of seed has been planted of this story that maybe goes back to 4 years ago when Venus was in the same part of the chart. Mm-hmm. That's going to continue on. So, Venus is serving sort of that specific purpose this month and part of that story. But then also, again, besides the fact that Venus is in Aries, Venus is also invisible, which can make things a little more difficult as well. So I think, does that answer your question?
Yeah, for sure.
And then the other part it makes me think of too is that oddly, in death charts, right? You think that it would be Saturn, but I found that Jupiter tends to play a greater role.
Oh, interesting.
There's some sort of Jupiter transit, either Jupiter is transiting something or something's transiting your Jupiter, right? Jupiter, we like to think shorthand for making things bigger and expansive, but Jupiter is the great teacher. So, right. So Jupiter can also take things back, which is kind of beautiful, right? This different, sort of a different symbolism.
For sure.
I was thinking about too, people relationship charts. We always think that a lot of times Saturn going through someone's 7th house can trigger a a breakup, right? Like, because Saturn, we think of like structure. So like if you are in a relationship and Saturn goes through there and this isn't like the relationship doesn't have the structure to uh to um to go forward, or right, to stand up. Like, I'm lost for words right now, but you know what I mean, right? Like, if the structure of the relationship is weak, right? Like Saturn's going to take it out. But interestingly enough, like I've seen people who Jupiter goes through their 7th house and they have breakups as well, but it tends to be like a different nature. Like it can blow things up or bring a relationship in and almost like be too much, and then it like goes out. So it's interesting. Like the benefics are not always like the best thing to work with.
Yeah, for sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop sharing screen. I kind of like this, like chatting. Any other like, I should make this a good thing. Any other questions? Like, you read the blog. Any other questions for the month?
Gosh. I don't know. Let me see if there was another one that kind of jumped out for me. I mean, I always love reading all of them. They're so fun. And, you know, again, like you said, it's nice to read more than just your own, like, sun sign, because it just sparks ideas.
Do you read, when you read them, do you read for your rising or do you read for your sun sign?
I usually read both and moon,
okay.
which then ultimately makes me read like all of them.
I forget, what is your rising sign again? Why is my sorry, I have no sense of memory.
It's Aquarius.
Oh, and let's look at read it. Do you want to read the Aquarius one? Tell me if that resonates. I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah. Oh, well, just first, my moon is Leo, and I'm looking at that one right now, and it totally, okay, so the Leo one says, if 10 years of pandemic hasn't turned your travel bug into a fierce study habit, I'm sorry. Maybe this is a good time to invest in a globe or take a geography course or pick up a new language. While we're on the topic, have you ever wondered what's so French about tongue kissing? The upside to all this tragedy is we're one season away from summer and vaccine passports look like a thing, so get to work studying or kissing or whatever. Which is so funny because, you know, my big like travel every year is to Paris.
Oh, for the big Paris show. Yeah.
Yeah. And I really miss it. And I also, I at one time was like completely fluent in French, and I've really gotten rusty. So all year I've been very diligent about doing my old Duolingo French lesson.
Yeah.
And so it's, you know, whatever. It's funny.
Oh, good. I called it. I'm just staring at us and I'm like, wow, we're 2 Leo risings, and like you're like red hair in my red dress.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So what were we saying? Aquarius rising. That's me. Only a quarter into the calendar year, and what an adventure. Your theme this month is integration. As the sun moves farther from your home, it carries with it the lessons of your solar return. Now is an ideal time to process these lessons by picking up a daily writing habit if you don't have one already. I like morning pages because they force me to self-dialogue without fear of failure. You tear them up at the end. Big thoughts are useless if they never leave your head. I love that sentiment.
Yeah. And I feel like you don't talk about it, but did you start off as a writer? Is that like, were you a copywriter? Because your writing's really good.
Thank you. No, no, I studied psychology and art history in college, so I wrote a lot in college.
Okay.
And I worked at MoCAD for a while and wrote some like exhibition materials and that type of thing. But yeah, in advertising, I was a producer, so didn't do much writing there.
Okay, because I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. You have an art history background.
Yeah.
It's all coming together now.
Yeah. I do I do enjoy writing. Sometimes it becomes a lot, like, you know, got to be like with any creative thing, you got to be kind of in the mood for it. But when I force myself to do it, it gets to be challenging.
Yeah, because you've wrote, for people who don't know, I mean, there's a lot of content on the website Supernatural that you've written.
Yeah, I worked really with like a SEO person, and she encourages me to do at least one blog a week, which I have fallen way off of. But yeah, there's a lot of content there.
Okay. Yeah, I love it. This has been like a really fun experiment. I was like, I don't know if anyone like is gonna listen to us.
We've had a few coming in and out.
Yeah, this has been fun.
Looks like we still have one.
We kind of changed formats here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
nice feels like I feel.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, it just feels strange, like going through like the signs without like people here to like I want like 12 zodiac personalities to like give feedback. Like, does that resonate with you? Does this experience match what you're feeling?
Totally. Yeah. Well, yeah, the one thing about the Instagram that's nice is that it like pings people to let them know that you're doing it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah.
This has been fun. Thank you for joining this fun experiment with me.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me.
I didn't want to throw you on the spot, but I would like to like do another live stream where we just talk about you and your story. Because I get like little pieces of it.
Okay.
But I am really fascinated because I do love the store and I really love what you're doing. And I feel like there's a lot to explore there.
Sure. Yeah. Cool. We'll do that one next time. I'll write out my talking points.
Oh my God. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.